This is a place I'm very familiar with. I was a police officer for almost 30 years, and we would regularly come here in places like this where evidence would be heard on both sides, and a decision would be made based on the evidence and based on fairness, and the outcome would be guilty or not guilty. So we're here this morning to talk about Good Friday. You may well wonder why it's called Good Friday, considering all the things that happened on this day. But this is the day when God demonstrated his love and his goodness in all its fullness for us. It tells us in the Bible that God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. The Bible tells us that before the third hour, or 9 o'clock in the morning, Jesus would face condemnation, false accusations, and he would face three different trials. The outcome of these trials was never in any doubt, because Jesus had set his face to go to Jerusalem and to face death on our behalf. He would pay the price for us. The three trials were what was called the Sanhedrin trial, which was the religious elite and the high priest. He would appear before them. He would also appear before Pontius Pilate, who was the Roman governor and often referred to as the procurator of the area. He would also face a trial before King Herod. Now, all of these trials were what we would refer to as mistrials in our modern society. We often talk about miscarriages of justice. That's what Jesus faced. The evidence against him was manufactured, it was wrong, and in fact, both King Herod and Pontius Pilate said they could find nothing wrong with him. But despite this, he was condemned. Pilate actually stood outside and addressed the crowd, and he asked the crowd what their decision would be, and the crowd shouted out, "Crucify him, crucify him." Before he was led away, the Roman soldiers spat on Jesus. They placed a crown of thorns upon his head and pierced his brow. They also took a whip and flogged him. The whip had metal spikes in it, and his back is described as being like a ploughed field. This form of crucifixion was described in the Bible almost 1,000 years before this took place. So the Roman soldiers took Jesus and nailed him to a wooden cross. When he was on the cross, Jesus said 7 things, all of which are important. But one of the things he said was, "It is finished." It tells us in our English translation, "It is finished," but in the original Greek, the word was teletestai, which has a deeper meaning. It means paid in full forever. There's an old hymn, and the words are, "Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow."